All right, welcome to the Tuesday show. I'm Ultra David.
And I'm way too far to the right here. Let me move over a little bit. I'm James Chen. How's everybody going?
So, we'll talk about some fun stuff today. We're going to talk about the value of Jerkery.
Yes.
We're going to talk about whether you should pay money for lessons. We're going to talk about how SF5 has done. We'll talk about Mortal Kombat XL. We'll talk about Arbiter and Tusk.
Who?
You just want me to go with Arbiter constantly?
Yeah.
All right.
Dude, someone actually tweeted me and they said they can't call him anything else but Arbiter now.
Arbiter it is.
For me, so.
That Halo character in Killer Instinct. And then we'll talk about, actually I guess before that, we'll talk about Winter Brawl, we'll talk about Ken Winter Clash, and
a lot of good stuff this last week.
There was some cool stuff.
I mean, obviously, one of the great things that happened at Winter Brawl this past weekend is going to be the first topic for the day.
Right.
Is Champ versus KaneBlueRiver.
So they had an exhibition that was on Saturday night.
Now, I mean, to set this whole thing up, obviously, at EVO, KaneBlueRiver won, right? He won EVO 2015.
In Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
And everybody, a lot of the pros just didn't want to give him any proper credit.
In fact, people were upset.
Yeah, people were actually really angry about
upset,
it.
Yeah.
And so Champ started calling him out, started, basically saying, you didn't run into me or Chris G or whatever.
Right.
Never mind that he did beat Justin, right?
He did beat Justin.
But the problem with it was, a lot of people were frustrated with what Champ was saying, but then KaneBlueRiver would go to events and not even enter Marvel.
At SoCal Regionals.
Yeah, at SoCal Regionals, and he wasn't accepting a lot of money matches, so, Champ wanted to do a 1st to 15 exhibition with him, and he was, not willing to go with it for a while. So a lot of people started questioning his attitude as a champion, one of those kind of situations. And then it just kept kind of snowballing from there.
Right.
And so finally, we have this weekend here at Winter Brawl, and previous weekend, KaneBlueRiver played it undefeated, didn't even make it out of pools.
Right. Champ
had basically said, I don't even want to practice for this match. He was like, I can't even practice because it's going to be so bad.
Right.
And a lot of people were even wondering if KaneBlueRiver was going to show up, all these things like that.
But it wasn't the money match.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was just an exhibition. Big E literally flew KaneBlueRiver out there just to have this exhibition. And lo and behold, KaneBlueRiver showed up.
Yeah. And
they had their first 15. What happened?
Well, the final score was 15-10.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound too bad, right?
Yeah.
So, it was a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
And some of those games in there were games that Kane switched away from, the big team that everybody knows him for. He also has a PR ROG, and he has, I don't know, whatever the Iron Man team was.
He played a Clockwork team too.
But it's right, Clockwork, yeah. And, so whatever. He tried that stuff out. That didn't go that great, although I think he did take a game or two with some of those teams in there. But some of those games were not actually victories at all. They were just F-Champ giving him the game, pausing, thereby, losing the game. I mean, that's the rule, right?
Right.
If you pause, then you've lost the round. And he did it on purpose in order to give Kane a couple of games in there.
Yeah, and to literally stand up, walk over to the stream station, and talk smack about KaneBlueRiver on stream.
Right. He was looking at KaneBlueRiver and being a jerk. I mean, we couldn't see what he was saying necessarily, but you pretty much get the gist of it.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many photos of him just looking at KaneBlueRiver, shouting. I heard he patted his back one time. Was like, "Good job," you know, and just basically being a douchebag. Let's just put it that way, right?
Being a jerk.
Yes, and the whole time KaneBlueRiver no expression change.
Right.
Just.
That's true.
Very stoically.
That's true.
A lot of people were giving him credit for not punching F-Champ in the face.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. Well, by the end of it, he switched back to the team, the team everybody knows
big bodies,
before.
yeah.
Yeah. And he actually took games. Legit, he was taking games.
Right.
And it got up to the point where I think it was 10-13 at one point, which was close.
Yeah.
And it was starting to get kind of nervous a little bit.
Interesting.
Right, yeah, you could see it starting to change around a little bit. And, you know, anyway, F-Champ took the final 2 games, and he ended up sealing it 15-10. But it started out a blow-up, and it ended up, you know, it was respectable. It was
right.
It was not an exhibition that I think anybody would have, like, considered memorable by itself.
Right.
Other than just for the jerkery.
Yeah.
That was really it. But then the next day, that's what sealed it in everybody's mind.
Yes. Well, the interesting thing was Champ was also making all these side conversations too, because he beat Cosmos in a tournament and popped off, proceeded to break his own joystick and a couple of Arturo's headsets.
That's true.
I'm still not sure how that even happened.
Like, I can't even
picture it in my mind. Yeah, exactly. But that happened, and so now Champ is all of a sudden like, I was going to announce my retirement out of Marvel after beating KaneBlueRiver and all these things like that.
We saw him at Wednesday Night Fights, and he was talking about how he hasn't practiced. Like, I don't think that's like made up.
Right.
Like I don't think he actually has not practiced, and whatever. That doesn't even matter. It's not even here or there. Anyway, so the next day, F-Champ
and
KaneBlueRiver, they played in grand finals.
Well, they got to winners finals.
They did get to winners
finals. They made
finals.
it all as, you know, normal as it seems. Champ blew him up 3-0 in winners finals.
It's 3-1.
It was 3-1, okay, but it was still pretty dominating, right? But then KaneBlueRiver went to losers bracket in losers finals and beat Noel
3-0.
3-0. Pretty solidly.
Yeah.
And then that set up grand finals.
Right. So grand finals was, you know, it was their real stuff. It wasn't any fake teams or anything like that. And it was a reset 3-2, very close.
Yeah.
Very close indeed. And then KaneBlueRiver won it 3-2 in the second set.
In grand finals.
3-2. He beat F-Champ after all of the showmanship and jerkery of the previous night.
Yep.
After all the words and the little patting on the back as if, oh, you're a little child.
All the douchery.
Right. And KaneBlueRiver won it. He won the major. By the way, if I am correct about this, please let me know if not, because I believe he's in the chat.
Oh, okay.
I think is this the first major that he's won other than Evo?
I don't know. I mean, this is probably the first time he's beat Champ in a major, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine so. But also, the other thing to me, though, is somehow I feel like this win was probably bigger for KaneBlueRiver than the Evo win.
Yeah,
because
that is accurate. It was his first major other than Evo. His first major was Evo, okay? That's the first one that he won.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. And then, he wins this one. Look, the Evo win is the biggest. I mean, it's Evo, obviously. But for him to, you know, he didn't play at SCR.
Right.
We talked about this at the time. If I recall correctly, it was something like he just happened to be flying back through LA. The flight was arranged like way in advance, and it just happened to be that SCR was later set on that date, so it was like just coincidence. First major that he's come to in the U.S.
Right. But see, the interesting thing is, so he won Evo, but the thing about it is, a lot of people didn't give him credit because they were saying he didn't run into any more dooms and all these other things. People were making excuses all left and right.
Sure.
So that was a big win. But then a lot of people discounted it. But now that he's beaten Champ at Winter Brawl, I feel like that just took everybody's doubts and was like, okay. And now he's officially like, now people are not going to be sitting there and smack talking him about winning Evo. You know what I mean? That's why I feel like it's such a big win for him to have won that tournament, because not only did he get revenge on Filipino Champ, who was being a jerk the whole entire weekend to him, but, you know, it just, like, what are a lot of these people going to say? Like, he beat Noel Brown in losers finals 3-0, right? And he had a really sick Dark Phoenix kill. I don't know if you saw.
I was watching.
Yeah. So he had that really sick Dark Phoenix kill. And then he beat F-Champ coming from losers bracket, needing to win 2 sets. And so, to me, I just feel like that makes it so that everybody who tries to discredit his Evo win can't do it anymore. And that's why I feel like it's such a big win for him. That's why I feel like it's so important.
Okay.
So, I mean, I just think it's it's really funny too because the crowd was like going crazy for the whole entire thing.
I mean, what can you say after the previous night of such incredible jerkery to lose? Then I feel like that's one of the biggest losses that I can recall in fighting games. And there's been a lot, but I feel like that. And again, it's all the setup of the previous night. If they had just played the tournament, even if there had been like minor beef or whatever, it's still like it's cool, but it's like you don't remember it.
Yeah.
It's because of the exhibition and what happened in the exhibition and how Champ treated it.
Right.
That you remember him losing.
Yes.
The next day in like super poetic justice.
Now there's a couple of interesting facets to this.
Yeah.
Right. So. One facet, and this is kind of what we wanted to talk about, which is the role of heels in the tournament scene, right? So Champ was being a jerk, and I saw a lot of people on Twitter like, I hate this guy, or like, I want to punch him in the face, or like, this is total disrespect, like, this guy should, like, if anyone's watching a fighting game tournament, he's giving up the fighting game scene a bad name. All these things. So that's one aspect I want to talk about.
Okay,
right?
sure.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you feel like... Do you feel like... Are you mad at Champ for acting the way he did, or...
Nope. Nope, I think it's hilarious. To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really funny. And... I mean, I've always had an appetite for jerkery and for the blow-ups associated with it. And I'm cool with that. I feel like I've never not been cool with that.
Yeah.
It's definitely in keeping with, some frat kid who would go to college football games and heckle all the players. And
right.
It's very much in keeping with that. So I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I don't, I'm sure that there are some downsides to it in terms of, I'm sure it's turned some people off. On the other hand, I think that it brings in a lot of people.
Right.
And now we're talking about it.
Yes.
Days later. And we're talking about it in a way that's like very different than how we usually do. Usually we have some other topic, and then on like, the second after the commercial, we'll like bring up the tournament results. We'll be like, X beat Y, good job, X, and we'll move on.
Right.
But we're talking about this because of the jerkery and what it set up.
Right.
That's the whole reason.
Yeah.
And so it sticks in your mind. I think it's really funny. I like having somebody in the scene who is willing or likes to do that kind of stuff. I think that that's pretty good.
Look, I'm just going to say this.
Useful maybe is a better word.
The FGC, I've often talked about how much I want it to succeed, become more of a popular thing. I don't expect it to blow up to become like some sort of major sport or anything like that, or I don't even think we're going to get to League of Legends status or anything like that. But the whole point is, there's definitely good ways to craft this to make it so that it has the best chance possible, right? I always make the comparisons to poker, right? I've always made the comparisons to poker because poker is very similar. You can play against a pro at the table, all these things. And it's a bunch of different people traveling to different tournaments. There's no real league or anything like that. The WSOP is like EVO. It just happens to be the big one, right? Well, one of the best things about World Series of Poker, or just poker in general, was they started focusing on the players, and they had the good guys, but then they had the bad guys. Right. They had the Phil Hellmuth, right, who just yells at everybody. They had the Mike Matusow versus Greg Rayner, I think his name was. I forgot, but like they would always clash, and Greg was always like this super. If I got the name wrong, please let me know. But like he was always this really nice guy and everything. He was really, and Mike Matusow was always yelling at him and like being a total jerk to him. But then Greg would always win. So, like, it kind of sets up that drama and everything like that. So, I actually don't think it was bad for the FGC at all. If people watched it and were like, this guy is a jerk, then that's good. Because then they have someone to root against. Now whenever you see him come on here, you just want him to lose as badly as possible. And that adds a little level of investment. That gets people interested.
The point is that you want to see him. Maybe the last word of that sentence is, get his butt kicked.
Yeah.
But the first few words are, you want to see him.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it definitely, I think, has value in that way. People in the chat are asking whether I think that I would have the same kind of outlook on this if I were in Kane's shoes and if it was some jerk next to me. All props to Kane for being as stone-faced as he was. I'm not sure that that's something I would have been able to do.
Right.
So I might have handled it differently and maybe not in the best way. But
it 100% would have got to me. Like, it would have been hard for me to deal with, for sure.
Right. But on the other hand, in sports, I definitely... Look, I'm going to level with you. I definitely led my league in penalty minutes many a year. I was that guy, all right? I was that player. Mm-hmm. And there were, and not that we would get into fights because that was banned, but, we would definitely rough each other up a little bit and, like, try to get under each other's skin. And I thought that was awesome. I loved it. Okay. I thought that was a really... Okay. That was like a big part of hockey to me. I really liked that side of it. Right.
I mean, here's another aspect that you can talk about this as well. I actually tweeted this as well. I actually felt like, like I said, the problem is leading up to this whole thing, I just didn't see the emotion in KaneBlueRiver. In fact, when he lost let's talk about Fnatic versus Desmond, right? Mm-hmm. They had an exhibition as well. They've had beef for a very long time. When Desmond won that, you could see the look on Fnatic's face. Like, he was devastated. Sure. He was just really crushed. When I saw the Champ and KaneBlueRiver exhibition end, I didn't see that same kind of devastation on KaneBlueRiver's face. You know what I mean? It just was more like, all right, I did this. Let's move on now, right? We're enough of this. And, to me, I felt like that was kind of a problem, in my opinion, because, and I know, like I said, Kane's in this, you said Kane is in the chat, but, like, when you're a person of that caliber, I feel like you need to, display a little bit more, confidence in yourself kind of situation, right? A lot of people were saying how depressed Julio looked when he lost, right? Yeah. I like that kind of thing. Yeah. I like seeing people upset when they lose because, one, I do it, and two, I know it means a lot to them, right? Right. But now here's the thing. If it was just a regular exhibition, if Champ wasn't such a jerk, like you said, we wouldn't even be talking about it to this extent, right? I don't know if Kane would have won the next day. I'm not sure if that would have happened because he was such a jerk. Like, I feel like that kind of adds a little fire to the fuel to the fire. Sorry.
You got it.
Yeah, but the whole thing is, like, even whether you personally believe it or not, when something like that happens, that just really drives home a lot of stuff, especially the way KaneBlueRiver closed out the set, the exhibition, is that he started kind of making a comeback, and, something about it probably felt like, wait a second, like maybe, you know what, I can beat this guy. And because he's such a jerk, that makes you want to beat him even more. And I don't know, like, I honestly feel like that can fuel you in a lot of ways. And I feel like that helped propel him to his victory on Sunday. And so, as much as Champ was being a jerk in a weird way, I think it can help a lot of times. Right. Look, whenever you want to beat someone so bad, it makes you play a lot harder. Who's the player that I'm thinking of? It might even be Fnatic. There was one player that I used to talk to, and he used to say, I'm not good anymore because I don't hate anyone enough. Like, I don't... Oh, no, it was like Watson. Watson is like one of the main ones, right? Sure. Yeah. So when Street Fighter 4 first came out, he didn't care about the game. Yeah. Until Gutex talked smack to him.
That's true. I remember that.
As soon as Gutex talked smack to him, that was when Watson was like, oh, no, you little, you 09er.
It was like Gutex beat him at his house or something like that.
Yeah.
I think they were playing at Watson's place. Or maybe it was Gutex's place.
No, it was Watson's. It was one of Watson's. He used to own a home that he rented out to other people. They were playing there. Right. Gutex beat him. Right. And Gutex... what
was the phrase? I don't remember what it was.
You just don't know.
That's what it was.
He was like, you just don't know. Like, he said that to Watson, like, you don't know how we're, and Watson was like, oh, you're done. Right. And then basically Watson took it upon himself to chase Gutex at, like, every tournament and beat him.
mission accomplished, by the way.
Which he did. Right. Exactly. So there's certain players out there that, you know, whether you are, you know, someone who is very kind-hearted like Nico or like KaneBlueRiver, or whether you're a jerk like Mike Watson, when you have that opponent, when you have that person that you're gunning for, this is why Vi always talks about having rivals. Right. It really, really ups your game. You know what I mean? It makes you play harder, whether you admit it or know it or not. You know what I mean? Whether it's conscious or subconscious. So in a weird way, I think it was kind of helpful to KaneBlueRiver to have Champ be such a jerk to him. Okay. But also, look how happy everyone was after he won.
Right.
They basically mobbed him on stage.
Right.
And that wouldn't have happened if Champ wasn't such a jerk.
And I saw people in the chat saying that they're not even Marvel fans, really. But they were cheering for this because of that whole backstory.
Yeah, exactly. Someone asked who my rival is. I still say Ed Ma.
He's just your demon.
Yeah, he's my demon. He's not necessarily my rival.
Yeah.
He's my demon.
Yeah.
He's my demon.
You like him. He's like a nice demon.
Yeah. He's like that nice demon. He's the nice guy who talks so much smack to you, like almost unintentionally in the nicest way possible.
I'm never sure if it's unintentional or not with that. I've never really been able to figure it out. Yeah. I definitely talk trash to him on purpose. But,
yeah. But that's kind of how I saw it. And then, oh God, yeah, someone just mentioned it on stream, Muffin Man did, but yipes, dude. Like, that's what made the whole, like, dude, the whole thing just went together so well.
It was done well.
Yeah, Yipes' reaction and expressions, and, oh, it was so funny. It was great stuff. It was.
Yeah. Again, we're talking about it now, you know, in a way that we would not talk about if there wasn't this whole storyline. Yeah. From Champ's perspective, I mean, you know, he even put this out on Twitter, saying that he sort of felt bad about it afterward. I think this is not after he lost. This was like after the... Oh, really? I didn't see that. I must have missed that. Okay, okay. He said something like, you know, I felt bad about it, but I had to do it, you know, for the fans or something like that. Right. You know, with him, it's definitely part of his personality, but it's also definitely played up, you know?
Yeah.
It's a real part of his personality.
Don't
get me wrong.
You can't fake that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. You have to have that jerk in you to be able to do that. He's definitely in there,
but it's definitely also exaggerated a little bit.
Well, okay. So let me ask you this. So I said the first part of it was the whole, you know, does the heel, like, where did you think it was wrong, etc. But what did you think of Champ's reactions to after he lost?
He can't. What can he do?
He was like really humble about it.
I know. I mean, what else could he even do?
Yeah.
Is my question. I mean, I feel like that's the only answer.
Yeah.
So your only option.
The expression on his face right when he lost was still like the best expression ever, because he had his mouth open. He had a jaw drop.
Yeah, he did.
And it literally looked like, I don't know what to do now.
He did not believe it.
Yeah, like he was like...
He just popped into an alternate reality. He's flabbergasted.
Yeah, but I mean, even on the stage, he didn't ask for a run back against Aaron Black. You know, he just
acknowledged... It wasn't the worst loss of all time. Okay, it was
He actually said, okay, he outplayed me. And even on Twitter, he was saying, I got outplayed. I have to hold that. He released a list of the 15 best Marvel players today, even though he messed up and it kind of extended to like 13 or 14 players. But it looked like he was kind of listing them in order of what he thought the levels were at first, and KaneBlueRiver was fourth on that list. Oh, I mean, it was himself, Chris G. Justin, and then KaneBlueRiver was like fourth or fifth. Okay. So already, you know, like, that's the cool thing about it is, I mean, at least he recognized it. He's like, I got legit beat. He didn't make excuses, which was kind of nice.
What was the phrase he said afterward? I think it was, he was referring to Kane. He was the better man yesterday and the better player today.
Yeah,
That is very well done. I just think that's like really well said. Yeah, you know? It's like he had planned it out. I don't know.
Because he's right. I mean, KaneBlueRiver, like you said, he didn't break.
Yeah.
KaneBlueRiver did not break through all of that taunting from Filipino Champ, and I think that says a lot of his character.
Sure.
That and him coming back and winning against Champ, I think, just catapulted him into the area of respect in the FGC. And honestly, you know, as much as painful as that might have been for Nico to go through that exhibition and have Champ be such a jerk, and you're just sitting there like, I want to punch this guy, but I'm gonna be a better man about it. Like, his status now in the FGC, I feel like is like he had fans before, but now it's just like, I think it's just he's been rocketed into this kind of upper echelon of FGC heroes, you know?
Yeah.
So
I think you might be right about that.
Oh man.
And all because of F-Champ being a jerk.
Exactly. So
huge part of that.
Mm-hmm. Heels, I mean, they have a place.
I think they do.
They have a place.
I think they do.
I mean, even someone like Tokido knows this. Like, remember that last Red Bull Kumite? He was talking smack to Bonchan, even though you could kind of tell it was like,
yes,
whatever.
I bodied him.
Yeah, he always gets second place, you know, that kind of thing. When K-Brad was talking smack to Snake Eyes, telling him he was overrated. And, you know, even in that same tournament, like when Snake Eyes beat him, now K-Brad even told Snake Eyes, like, man, if you beat me, you better pop off. Like, he told him to pop off. You know, K-Brad recognizes the effectiveness of this kind of thing, you know. So there's a place in it, you know.
Oh, great. I'm with that.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, is that it for KBR versus F-Champ discussion?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about
just
the next.
One thing I just want to say is I really am happy for KaneBlueRiver though. Like when that happened, like it's almost like you could feel the entire FGC like stand up. It was like the end of a movie. You know, where everyone's shouting and cheering, and you see the women in the crowd crying.
Oh yeah,
you know, and, it was pretty cool. So.
I definitely got loud in my apartment. For sure,
it was awesome. It was awesome. So
good moment.
All right.